Morning. Firstly, any injuries, any knocks on the weekend, anything to be concerned about?
No, some good news. Corey Evans is back on the grass now, but he's going to do a couple of days with the under-21s group just to phase him back in. Callum Stiles will rejoin the group today with his first session, so that's a good thing. The game tomorrow will be too early for him, but he may be in contention for the weekend just to see how he goes after obviously the appendicitis.
I'm disappointed for Elliot Embleton not to get his 45 minutes on Friday.
Yeah, and he actually he rolled his ankle a little bit yesterday, so he's going to miss a couple of days. So the plan was for him to play this weekend with the second team, but they might get pushed back. Just one of these things. It's the game's harsh sometimes. You know, you're just getting ready to play your first game back, it gets called off, and then the very next session you roll your ankle. But these things happen.
Your first midweek game, and these come around quickly. When Mike Dodds was in sort of interim charge, he was talking about how the planning was already done for the games sort of next up after that. Is that very much how you work? That, you know, going into the Plymouth game, you'd be pretty much in your mind how you were going to line up for Huddersfield, how you were going to work the Huddersfield game?
A little bit, but obviously then performances at the weekend can sway you. You know, you could have someone come off the bench and do particularly well, or something could happen in that game and the confidence of the group changes that. I think the Championship is relentless, so you have to play the game that's in front of you, but you always have a little eye what might hurt the next team. What I would say is it's a really interesting team that we're playing against with Huddersfield. Scored 7 goals in their last 2 games. We've lost 1 in 5, and that being a game where they've scored 3 goals away at Southampton and been leading going into the last 10 minutes. Obviously, we're leading 2-0, so something's happened there. And obviously, they're waiting for a new coach to go in. They're fighting for their lives at one end of the table, while we've got aspirations on a completely different thing. So every game at the moment, as soon as we get out of this game, that's very similar to what we're going to face again at the weekend at Birmingham, isn't it?
Must have been a bit of an eye-opener when he came off after the game on Saturday, seeing that Huddersfield result and then knowing you're the next team to play them. I'm wondering how they're going to react to that.
Yeah, obviously they've had the change in-house, but they're at a stage of the season like ourselves where every 3 points is so important. It's a home game for them. They've lost 1 in 5 away at Southampton, so sometimes, you know, the form guide and the league table are 2 different things completely. It will be a really tough game. I've watched them. They're quite direct in terms of they're not a team that wants too much possession, but they play the most forward passes, certainly in the last 5 or 6 games in the league, and they're 5th for shots. So it tells you what's coming. We're going to need to be defensively strong. We need to make sure that we're up for the midfield battle for sure, all over the pitch. We're not going to be able to have the lapses in concentration we've had maybe in the start of the second half at Middlesbrough and the first half at the weekend. We're going to need to be at it for 90 minutes if we want to get the 3 points. As I say, for both teams, the 3 points is huge in this game.
You must have been pleased, though, by the reaction that you got from the players at half-time on Saturday. I mean, we talked before the game about teams that can come in and make life difficult for you, and Plymouth came with a game plan, and they clearly did make things awkward for you the first 45, but the manner in which you changed it must give you heart going into these sort of next 2 games, you know, because Birmingham won't be any different to tomorrow night.
Yeah, the praise is with the players. You know, you give information, but they got to go out and execute it. So to be 1-0 down at home against a team you think might sit in and play on the counter, probably you would say was Sunderland's our biggest nightmare so far this season. So to win the second half 3-0, I was delighted with. I don't believe we give up a shot on our goal, which is difficult in the Championship, the way the games are played and how direct some teams can be at times. So, no, delighted with the players. It was 3 excellent goals. We played with much more quality, much more speed. We've had a discussion about that. Sometimes the opponents played their big part in the game as well. But each game you have to solve different problems. And where we were at half-time to where we were at full-time at the weekend, obviously that was a fantastic turnaround. So credit to the boys for doing that.
One more for me. I mean, Job, I don't know, sometimes it's maybe in our imagination that watching Job come on, he looked like a newborn sort of player. He just seemed to have a spring in his step. Is that just our imagination because he'd been rested and we felt that perhaps he needed a break from you know, starting every game over the last month or 2?
Yeah, there's been a need for him to play. When I first come in, it was a crazy 10 days where we probably trained 3 times, and even then it was in adverse weather, and the same players had to play the games at that stage. We came out of that 4 games in 10 days in a good place because we was in the playoff position, so that was what we had to do. This week we feel we had a slightly stronger squad and we could maybe give him a break, and the plan was, could he come on in 30 minutes and really impact the game with lots of energy? Not just him, I thought him and Chris Rigg come on and really pin their 2 midfielders back. That actually freed up Dan Neil, who had a particularly eye-catching second half, didn't he? So when you think of the age of that midfield and the fact you're on an 18 and 16-year-old at the time, you don't think like that. You think of the talent of the players that are coming on. But I was delighted with both, and I think obviously the goal changes everyone's perception as well, because if you take the goal away, then Joe just came on and made a positive impact in the game. The fact he come on and scored, it was obviously... and it was a nice personal moment for him as well. I think like he's had some near misses of late, and even if you go back to, I think it was the West Brom game where he wrongly had a goal disallowed, you know, as an attacking midfielder that can maybe play on your mind. So it was a fantastic personal moment, I thought.
Michael, results are what make or break a manager's, head coach's relationship with the fans, and obviously results have upturned as well in recent weeks. Do you feel that fans are maybe getting to know you a bit better, warming to you a bit more now?
Well, look, I think in the league our form's been really good in terms of, if you look at the form guides, we're where we need to be. We're where we need to be in the table, if you like, or close to being there. We've had some 1 or 2 games in the league where we've been disappointed. That's not going to, you know, I'm not going to come away from the disappointment in 1 or 2 games, namely Ipswich and Hull, where we should have got more from the games, I feel. You could probably throw Rotherham in that. So every game you don't get 3 points, there's a reason why, and you're frustrated. But I thought the fans were excited by the team second half at the weekend, and it was how we want our home stadium to be. We know we'll take a 4 away following tomorrow, and it's 2 big away games now. It's 3 out of the next 4 again away from home. So our away form, we've won 1 since September, was the whole game. We've had a couple of draws since then, which shows that we're getting more positive away from home, but it's the 3 points that are important now. And we don't want to get twisted up with draws. The 3 points are going to be crucial, and we're going to need to go and get some on the road, and the away support we know will be right behind us.
The Netflix season has started now, the new series. Have you seen it yet? Were you up first thing watching it?
No, but I see the first series, and you guys will look a lot older than what you did in that. So if that's what following Sunderland does to you, or is it just natural that you get a little bit older? Look, it took our club to the whole world, didn't it? Our club's a well-known club anyway, but obviously the series took it to the whole world. Not just the people inside the club, obviously the fans as well, and showed the passion of the club, and obviously the ups and downs, trials, tribulations of the club. I've not watched the first one yet of the new series, so I'm looking forward to it, and there's 1 or 2 in the building who are a little bit nervous about it. So I think what it does is it showcases our club and the passion and the following and the importance of our club to the local community, which I think is fantastic.
Michael, can you remember watching the first series or the second series and what you thought about the club? Were you surprised? Was there anything that maybe sort of took you back a little bit when you watched it a couple of years ago?
I saw really good people going through a tough time in terms of like coaches. You know, coaches, you see the strain it has on them. You see the managers come in at the start of their tenure, and you see the strain that it had on them, and the players as well. And you could see that the group was under a lot of pressure in the first series for sure. The second series ended much nicer, didn't it, with Wembley and obviously the team going up. And I think what it showed is what it means to the fans. You know, like they're here permanently, and so it's their club, and that trying to get that passion over to the players. If you look back at the squad that come out of the Premier League, the talent that it had. I wasn't around at the time, but it made for a fascinating viewing, didn't it? Obviously, with them, you know, ultimately the team getting relegated again, which was really difficult for everyone, and the scenes in the local pubs that they showed and things like that, how much it means to the fans. So I think that's what I saw from the staff. I suppose as someone that works in football, you saw the stress on the staff, and you saw how much. It's difficult sometimes when you're inside that bubble. At the moment, with our team, we're in a good way, for example. So I look at the group of players and they're bouncing into work because we're in a positive place. You really have to protect that, I think, when you're in football. Momentum's such a big thing, certainly in a league like the Championship where it's so even. So I think there's, going back to the team now, yes, we've just come off the back of 2 positive home results, but tomorrow night's going to be a huge game because there's so much at stake for both sides. Huddersfield are probably going through a little bit of what that Sunderland team were going through that season. They're down the bottom and scrapping for every point. So it's important that our players reset mentally. This is going to be a tough challenge, a completely different problem to solve than Plymouth at home.
So the stresses, the strains, the ageing, it didn't put you off taking the job. You still wanted it.
Well, the ageing on you guys is probably the thing that surprised me the most. You follow the club as well. No, look, all jokes aside, I think them sort of documentaries that go behind the scenes are fantastic. I've watched all the different ones in the different sports, for example. The NFL ones I think are fascinating as well. There's the one with the rugby at the moment as well, which I think they're fascinating to give you an insight behind the scenes and some of the players and their families, the local fans, the people that work behind the scenes like Karen and Leanne, for example. So, no, I think they're fantastic. The fact that it's a bit close to home with our club, it's even more special.
You mentioned Chris Rigg a moment ago. You obviously showed a lot of what you think of him on Saturday by putting him on at a crucial stage in the game. You've worked with a lot of young players over the years. Where does he rank at 16 years old?
I think his mentality is a big strength, probably his biggest strength, and it's how long he can keep that mentality like that. That's not to down talk his technique or his tactical intelligence, but he's a boy from this part of the world and it means a lot to him. And I think his mentality at the moment at 16 to be fearless, go in and play against midfielders that are maybe sometimes double his age, I think is fantastic. I actually put him on and Job at the weekend because I wanted us to win more duels in midfield. Like, I felt it was a crucial moment of the game at 2-1. So when you think you're putting a 16-year-old on in a Championship game to win duels, you must have a faith and trust in his mentality. And that's why I say, both for him and the amount they want to practice every day and that fearless mentality, I think that's a huge asset to both those young boys. Not just them, because we've got a young group, obviously.
Michael, clearly no team is going to finish in the top 6 in this division is going to be a team without talent, but it's also going to be teams that have a lot of consistency. So how do you coach consistency?
Well, it's just standards and habits. I think your defensive organisation gives you a lot in a football match. You might know where you're going to regain the ball, you have a trust in it, because you're going to have difficult moments in games. It's not going to be open and free-flowing all the time. As I say, the opponent's tactics sometimes steal space from you. And so it's important that defensively and as cohesion as we move around the pitch, that we've got real faith in that. And then it's important that some players in the team understand their role, and their role might be making sure they serve the match winners and support the match winners. It's important we get that balance right between who's willing to take the risks or who should be taking the risks. So if you have players like Paddy Roberts and Jack Clark and Naz and Job, Abdullah Bar, are they the ones that take the risk? The other boys have got to serve them and give balance. So these are all the things. It's not ideal joining a club at the back end of December with 4 games in 10 days and not having much chance on the training pitch, but these are the things over time you try to give the team real strong foundations. So when you're going away to Huddersfield and you maybe have to defend some more direct play and set plays, you can withstand that. When you're playing at home against a team that's sitting, that you have a way of playing, that all takes a little bit of time. I'm really fortunate that we have some excellent players here, and there was a lot of good groundwork done before I arrived, so I arrived in a good place. It's now, like I said in one of my first interviews, it's adding some little golden nuggets to that, to certain individuals that can kick them on. For example, like Trey Hume at the weekend, I thought had a real complete fullback performance, because he didn't only defend well, he pressed well, he harried well, but he's crossing at the moment. He deserves more, he deserves more. So something we're working on with maybe Jack and Paddy and Abdullah Bar. When our fullbacks are crossing the ball, can they attack the far post? A lot of their goals come from dribbling, but I think Trey should have 5 or 6 more assists with our wide players arriving in the box. So you're nudging these little things in. When they harvest, that's the most frustration of being a football coach, if you like. But We're doing okay. All I would say with the Championship, you can be doing great, and then there's the next game the next day that can change how you feel and all around the place. We need to protect that because we've had some tough days, but it's fair to say at the moment after the weekend our tails are up, so we must protect that in the next games.
Just that's the only other point I wanted to ask about. I mean, before you were here, Huddersfield actually came up here and won it. Do you think the Championship is kind of almost the ultimate division where you just can't really judge a team by the league table position?
No, and as I say, every team has different strengths, and you know some teams are set play teams, and they can be dominated between both boxes. But when they get the moments, they're very good at executing. We need to be beware of teams like that. You know, we're a young team that wants to play with lots of style and lots of freedom, but there's other teams that are out there that are dangerous for us that look at the games in different ways. You know, with defensive compactness and maybe set plays. We got to find a way to beat all of them. Wins are going to be the important thing now. As much as it's great to go on unbeaten runs, draws are actually can be your nemesis a little bit. It's wins that are important. We're willing at this moment in time to take risks against everybody. I think that's the excitement of playing in our team. We're willing to keep people up the pitch when you attack. We trust our defensive shape, hoping that when you turn it over, we can get you. That's what the Stoke and Plymouth game looked like. You know, we conceded a goal against Plymouth playing risk football. It's fair to say we scored 2 of our 3 goals playing risk football as well, and that makes for exciting viewing. And probably that's why people like me look a little bit older at times. So I'll take a little bit back from the stick I gave you guys.
Thank you.